Our guest this episode is a master of persuasive communication and the founder of Elevated Eye, a boutique consultancy focused on presence forward marketing. Since 2007, she's helped CXOs, keynote speakers, and politicians and influencers sharpen their message and amplify their impact. From designing training programs to advising thought leaders on high stakes presentations, her work blends strategy with substance. She's also shared her insights as a guest lecturer at USC and a contributor to entrepreneur.com. Here to discuss how presence forward messaging shapes influence, visibility, and growth, please welcome to the podcast, Sharí Alexander. Welcome. Welcome to the Engaging Personalities Podcast. I'm Anders Belanger, founder and CEO of Engagify, where we're on a mission to rehumanize business through engagement. We believe that we can all be more successful if we can command attention and deepen connection. So stick around to the end of the show and we'll reveal how you can be our next guest on a future episode. So let's get ready to engage.
Heck yeah, I'm happy to be here.
All right. Okay. I love it. Awesome. So I like to start in the beginning because, we go through our life with all these experiences and they shape us and bring us to the present moment. You're consulting with, CXOs, politicians. How did you get into this world of persuasive communication, if you will?
Sure. So I was a theater major,
Ah,
and the year before I graduated, I spent some time in New York thinking that that was going to be my path. And I hated it.
oh
I
no.
I just the actor's life was not, I was very idealistic in my
Uh,
20s. And so the full year after New York leading up to my graduation, I was just in panic mode of what the heck am I going to do with my life? And after graduation, I felt very unemployable and was searching for a job for several months. Thankfully, I did get hired to do PR work for a national nonprofit. And it was there that the path started to reveal itself. So within the first 6 weeks of being on the job, I landed the largest account that they had seen in over 5 years. It was with Lowe's home improvement stores. And that led to, I just very quickly developed this reputation across all the different regions of if you have a presentation coming up, talk to that Cherie girl. She's got some skills and tools. So I had a lot more fun coaching my colleagues than doing my actual job. And then some office politics kicked in. My boss's boss didn't like my reputation and thought I was overshadowing. Ugh. So with that office politics side, I was just like, you know what? I knew that speaking and coaching were viable business models. I had been exposed to that earlier in life. And I was still in my mid 20s. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to give this a shot. And thankfully, it worked out. A mentor of mine connected me with my first client. And then from there, it just built. So I focused predominantly on presentation skills. And then from there, I was asked to write speeches, which is when the working with political campaigns kicked in. I don't do that much more that these days. Um, and then over the years, I've been doing this for over 15 years now. There's been like three evolutions of the business, this being the third. And so today I work with entrepreneurs and executives who use speaking as part of their marketing strategy. So less so paid full-time professional speakers speaking to get the next speech. Instead, my clients, we strategize on how does this speech lead to more leads. And in my company, we do a survey once a year. It's called Voices of Influence. And I survey my network. I stalk people online that are speaking and ask them to fill out the survey. And we've discovered that on average, people are converting 5% of the audience into leads. My clients are averaging 30% of the audience. So there's a lot of strategy that we can bring in what to do before, during, and after the event to maximize the ROI of that significant investment.
Wow. So yeah, those are some significant results. And I know you talk about, this presence forward marketing. Is that kind of what that is, or is that something else? Because that, do you want to
Yeah, no,
speak
you
to
got
that?
it.
Because yeah.
Yeah, well, I always want to speak on it. It's my favorite thing. So yeah, a couple years ago, I coined the phrase presence forward marketing to describe this unique niche that I had discovered. Um, that it is marketing, but it's not marketing in the sense that we think of it these days with online marketing and social selling and all the things. That this is a unique blend. It still is a one to many model. So it's not one on one, it's not cold outreach. And in fact, it's a very warm audience that you're able to be in front of. Um, but people just weren't applying the same strategic thinking to their speeches as they were all of their other marketing branches. And and I love it because unlike a lot of our online activity, this form of marketing also allows us to connect as human beings, to share space with each other, breathe the same air, um, and just have that human connection. And so, not only do I love that from a fulfillment standpoint, and a lot of my clients are teachers at heart, they want to give back to the industry. And so, that's why they're drawn towards speaking. Um, but also, in the age of AI, where everything you read online is pretty much written by a robot, we no longer are assessing service providers the same way that we used to. We're not trusting the things that we see online as much, but there's no disputing that you know your stuff. If you're on stage, if you're speaking to people face to face, then you're the real deal. You're legit. And so I think the value of speaking is only growing exponentially.
Amen, Cherie. Like I saw that Mark Cuban quote, and I've been thinking about this recently as well. And so Mark Cuban kind of talked about how there's going to be so much fake video and all of this, that live events are going to be booming in a few, in years. I'm not too sure when this kicks in, because I've got a lot of people in the event space like, I'd love the budget right now, you know.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
what you just said is so true, and I've been thinking about that for people who can express themselves under fire live and even with mistakes, right? Like
Yeah.
the video, I interviewed someone not too long ago, Jan van Schuppen, and he talked about digital avatars, right? The idea that we can make videos that use our voice and do an exact script perfectly, right?
Yeah.
And so we're gonna like not trust perfect anymore,
Yeah.
and the authenticity of warts and all is going to become
Yeah.
so special, which I think is very interesting, right? So
Yeah. Well,
um
and
so
also like just to piggyback off of that,
yeah.
one thing I'm noticing in the younger generation as well is this conversation around community. And I know that that's been a hot button topic in years. It's had its ebb and flows, but now I think even the generation coming up is wanting that interpersonal interaction to find community, because it is difficult in the digital age. And so it's not just us older folks. I guess I'm one of those now. But even just everybody is craving this aspect that, COVID obviously kicked it into high gear, that we all lived in the digital world. And if AI is truly going to do what it says it's going to do, which is to free up our time, then how should we spend that free time? We should probably
Mm,
spend it together.
yeah. Wow. uh yeah, there's so many places to go with this. You know, let's go back to the presence forward marketing and how
Mhm.
you're helping companies. Uh, when you work and develop these, like you're closing these higher percentage of the audience,
Mhm.
and you work with someone, whether it is a C-level person at a company, are you making it more of a sales pitch, or is it still the same content? Because that's the thing too. You said they're teachers at heart, but what is it? And maybe you can't reveal this, Sharí. Maybe this is your secret sauce. I totally respect that. Shut me down at any time if I'm asking, bad questions.
No, I got on a podcast to not share anything.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So what is it that you shift about their speaking that generates these results? What is that
Yeah.
angle? Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll kind of start with the different perceptions that I see when both online and when people talk with me. One of the common things that I hear is, oh, I want to do better with my speeches. And so I think I need better speaking skills. And in my experience, your presentation skills are not priority number one. And that's probably shocking to some people. Now, let me clarify the context. Remember, my clients are B2B leaders. They are not trying to be rock star keynoters. If you want to be a rock star keynoter, yes, presentation skills, you are putting on a show. So you should train like an actor would. But if you're a B2B speaker, then what you want to do is find a presentation style that best fits you, that you feel most comfortable in your skin. And if you have a speech that provides so much value and is engaging, honestly, your presentation skills don't matter as much. One of my high performing clients, he runs a hedge fund. After our first presentation, he got $1 million. He raised an extra $1 million for his fund. The next speech, another $1 million. The next speech, $2 million. And he's crushing it. I love him dearly. His presentation style is dry, putting it mildly. he's he's so brilliant. Um, but we just don't focus on his presentation skills at all. We focus on the content and the strategy behind it. So I want to dispel that for folks. And also keep in mind, if you're drawn towards speaking, chances are you have some iota of charisma to work with. If you're somebody who super struggles with getting on stage and you have a full-on panic attack, okay, then there's other lessons that you probably do want to consume and build up that skill set. But for the context of what we're talking about, it's rarely the culprit of what's keeping you back from getting those leads. So then, okay, what is the culprit? There's a few different things. A lot of speakers, especially B2B speakers, don't realize that typically when you're speaking at conferences or associations, your audience is comprised of two different types of audience profiles. The first one you're most familiar with, those are your decision makers. So those are your C-suite, your senior VPs, and more than likely, you're creating a speech for those decision makers because those are the people you're on sales calls with. So you understand their problems, their perspective on the problem, the outcome that they're wanting to solve. But more than likely, more than half of your audience aren't decision makers, they're champions. And champions might not be able to write your check, might not be able to say yes in the moment, but when you craft the speech strategically, you can evangelize those champions to champion you internally after the presentation. But if your speech is to the decision maker, psychologically, the psychographics of the decision maker, then your champions are watching a good speech. They're nodding their heads, they're enjoying it, but they don't feel connected with it. They're not resonating with it, and they're not inspired to take action. So there's this nice balance that we need to figure out. First of all, identifying, is it a room full of decision makers, in which case, do that speech? Is it a room full of champions, or is it a mix of both? And then how can the speech reflect the perceptions of both of those profiles? Because we all know perception is reality. And if we don't speak to their reality, then we're not able to be persuasive.
So now I can see how you can get a much higher percentage just because you were almost not alienating, but you were ignoring a large portion of the room, which could have benefited your company in some way, right? If you would have given them the tools, the inspiration, the motivation to be able to do something, and a
Yeah.
call to action, if you will. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting. So is that almost the same recipe for politicians, or do you have any, or is there a difference with these? Because you're rallying people to vote for you, to support you, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Or what is it like working with politicians? Because I mean, that world is foreign to me. So I would love to hear some, whether it's insights or horror stories. I don't know. I think it'd be interesting.
Yeah. So, so I haven't worked on a political campaign in a while. I will say I'm not cut out for it. It's not in my DNA like it is for other people. But the differences are, I think that, as I just described, a B2B speaker, one of our best skill sets is to adapt to the conference theme, the audience, the what's trending in the industry, what's taboo, and those types of things. Versus in political campaigns, you stay on message. We
Mm,
have a drum beat, and that is the beat that you drum. That, hands down. Like, you want your message to stay consistent. Um, you learn a lot of media tricks of, you don't have to answer the question that was asked, get back to message. So it is a much different skill set.
hmm. Yeah. And and I see that so often, the not answering the question, it just drives me nuts. Like, I don't think I'm cut out to work in that space either. So
Yeah,
I can
yeah.
relate to you on that level. Um, what do you think the biggest gap you see in helping professionals, present themselves on stage? What is for you? Is there like a one that's just like keeps rearing its ugly head all the time and time again?
Yeah, it for me, the golden thread is alignment. And
Mm,
there's usually a few key places where they're just unknowingly out of alignment. So we talked about aligning with your audience, decision maker or champion. Other areas of alignment are, um, your lead magnet, or I like to call them audience activators, because certain lead magnets that we use online don't perform as well on stages. And our intention with the lead magnet or audience activator is to activate the audience. We want them to take an action, so that way your speech still breathes long after you've gotten off stage. Um, and so with the audience activators that people tend to use, it's usually a free resource that's in their back pocket, or they've had it for years. It's an ebook that they wrote several years ago. And the reason why that's a misalignment is because your freebie isn't the natural next step, the natural progression of your speech. You're giving away something for free, because in exchange for an email address, because you were told that that's what you should do and you want email addresses. Oh, we have a free thing. So oftentimes they'll pitch, they'll have the slide up with the QR code, and it's like, "Oh, and by the way, download this ebook that," which, by the way, ebooks don't perform very well, just
mm,
heads up. Um, you want that activator to provide a quick win, so they get a nice dopamine hit by further interacting with your content. So, audience activators, there's often a misalignment there. Another big one is, if you work for a company that has multiple services. So, for example, one of my clients has a marketing agency that serves banks, financial institutions, and like any marketing agency, they've got website, SEO, ad spend, video, all the different things that they can do. And his speeches used to be trying to hit on all of those things, everything that you can do in marketing, in
mm,
hopes that somebody would would be interested in one of those aspects and then reach out. That's cognitive overload for your audience. And when you're trying to shove so much into the presentation, you have so little room to have an emotional connection to any of the content. So we're just at a deficit right out the get go. So the misalignment for a lot of companies is you have to choose what is the one thing you want to point your audience towards. If you have multiple services, what is the one service that is best suited for this audience? Now, we might be able to do a light touch and mention of one, maybe two other things, maybe, but it's best served if you are intentional with this presentation is going to serve this service.
Yeah. It's much more of a targeted sniper-like approach as opposed to the shotgun, throw it against the wall, see what sticks kind of approach that if you
Yeah.
didn't like this, you'd like this, right? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know,
Exactly.
so when you work with, a business leader, are you working and creating almost like, I don't want to say a signature story, but like a signature speech that you can then maybe modularly plug and like promote the different services to make it more targeted? Is that kind of the approach?
Yeah. So it depends on industries and context for sure. But generally speaking, so a couple weeks ago, I was talking to a colleague of mine who was inquiring about my services, and she had a consultation call with somebody else who I believe was more geared towards the paid professional keynoter type of business model. And he advised her, he's like, "Oh my gosh, you have so much content. We should probably create 5 to 8 speeches for you." And just like you just my jaw dropped. I was like, "Why? Why would you do you know how much time and effort goes into one
Yeah.
stellar speech? So either you're not gonna have a stellar speech and you're gonna have a bunch of mediocre ones, or it blew my mind. So no, I advise that you probably need 1 to 3 speeches. And depending on your industry and topic, those 1 to 3 speeches will serve you easily 1 to 3 years. Now the caveats are, like, if you're a futurist of some sort, you're gonna recycle more often than others. If you're in a vastly changing industry, you might recycle a little bit more often than somebody that has more evergreen kind of content. Um, so, yes, for a lot of people, we have a core message because the company isn't changing that much, the ICP is the same, and then we probably swap out about 30% of that core message, that modular approach that you mentioned. We keep the core and we swap out 30% to make it specific to this conference, this audience, this angle of the topic that we're taking. Um, and it's just more efficient. That
Yeah.
way, you're not having to remember stuff. You're not having to create new slides. You're not having to, you just know that these are the elements that we're shifting, and the rest feels comfortable and familiar. Um, so yeah, it's and then those 3 speeches, you know that they're mostly the same, or yeah, mostly the same, but you're able to pitch different speeches to event coordinators, and one that takes this angle may be more appealing to them than the others. So
Mhm.
it's another reason to have probably at least 2 to 3 pitches, even though the speech itself may be similar. Now, I will say, some of my folks who speak a lot, um, and are at every single industry event, we do have to refresh a bit more often. But what's working to our benefit, even though it's a sad statistic, but your audience is going to forget 84% of what you said by the next day. So you want to take some solace in that sad statistic to know, like, hey, even though they saw me a year ago, they're not going to remember all of this. So you still have that permission to keep that core message that really works for you and keep that as your bedrock.
Yeah. And it means sometimes it's just reskinning the title and the description a little bit, like that's,
Sometimes. Yeah.
so do you help these people with that description, with the title, with the kind of, and then maybe is there support also to try to get them on these stages, or is that kind of on their own? Like you just help them, get the speech ready?
Yeah. So, one of my favorite things to do in my workshops and classes and things is to just tell people, hey, this is how you find events. Because it's easier today than it ever has been, especially with AI. I created a custom GPT that I share with my students. Um, I am not a bureau. I'm not an agent. If somebody wants referrals to bureaus and agents, I'm more than happy to give those. But in my experience, for our B2B speakers, they know the industry events that they're trying to get to. They know the heavy hitters, they know some of the smaller organizations. And so, what they really need more help with is the packaging. How do I make this as interesting as possible so they choose me and my speech or me and my panel over the other options? So, absolutely, we do titles, descriptions, key takeaways, bios, which everybody hates their bios. So, we do a refresh on that. Um, and if needed, if they're taking a little bit more of a personal brand as a speaker, then we might create like a speaker kit, one sheets, those types of things. So more on what I touch on is the packaging ahead of time, so that way you get booked. The activities of what to do leading up to the speech itself, the structure, the strategy, the audience activator. Sometimes we do some guerrilla marketing things at the event to bring butts to seats. Um, and then the follow up, the nurture sequence after, as well as how to maximize all of that amazing content of your speech. A big mistake that a lot of people make is they scramble to create the
Thank
speech
you
and then
so
they
much for
deliver the
listening to
speech and they
Engaging
go, whew,
Personalities.
that was a lot
If
of
you
work.
believe this
And
world
I'm just
needs
like,
more
wait, 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 you're
engagement,
not done,
and
you're
you're an
not done.
industry leader
Take
or you
that
have an
speech,
interesting
get the
take on
recording,
rehumanizing
turn it
business,
into
go
other
to
types of content, like slice and dice, so that way you don't come back to the office
go.engagify.podcast
back
to
on the
apply and
online
come on the show.
content hamster
If you got
wheel
something
of
out
what
of
should I
this
post
interview,
today.
do you
If
mind
you're
sharing
putting
it
in
on
the
your social
effort to
media? Just
create
grab a quick screenshot with your phone and
a
text it to a
speech
friend
can
or
fuel
post it
your
on the
online
socials.
content
If you
for
know someone that
months
would be a
to
great
a
guest,
year.
tag them on
So
social media to
leverage
let
that
them know
copy.
about the show. Include the
With
hashtag
purpose,
engaging
yes.
personalities. So you
I
had
love
mentioned,
seeing your
Cherie, just
posts and guest
a minute
suggestions.
ago
We are
about
regularly
your
putting out new
workshops and
episodes and
classes.
content.
So
To make
how
sure
do
you
you
don't
roll
miss
this
any
out? Like,
episode,
is
go
this?
ahead and
I'm
subscribe. Your thumbs
initially I was
up,
thinking it was a
ratings, and reviews
one-to-one
go a
thing,
long
very
way
much
to help promote the show.
executive
They mean a
coaching
lot to
style.
me and
But
my
do you
team.
have kind of
Want
a
to know more?
public-facing
Go to
piece
our
to it,
website,
or a one-to-many for
engaging.ai,
yourself?
or follow me on yeah.
LinkedIn.
So
Thanks for
I do
listening
have my
and
one-on-one
stay
client work
engaged.
and love it. I'm very fortunate that I get to work with such cool people. But then I also have so, for example, in a month from when this gets published, I'll be rolling out the next cohort of the Spotlight Accelerator. And that's a 6 week program where we basically go through all the first steps that I do with my one on one clients. Let's go find your events. Let's package your title, description, key takeaways. Let's structure your speech. Let's talk through some audience activator options, that type of content. And then on an undefined schedule, I do offer some free roundtable discussions and workshops. I call them mic drop roundtables. So that's just kind of like when my schedule allows, people can hop on and enjoy those. And then I'll put on some full day workshops, sometimes in person, sometimes online. And that's the Speaking for Business Growth workshop. So those are kind of the different avenues.
Very cool. Very cool. And where do you host the in person? In your own where you are?
Yeah, Austin, Texas.
Okay.
I've been in Austin for 3 years now, four, coming up on 4 years. Um, so starting those workshops here, then I'll probably expand to like Dallas and Houston, and then pick some more fun. I came from Los Angeles, so I'm sure LA workshop will be in the future as well.
Very cool. Very cool. How do if there's some business leaders, some executives listening to this, how can they reach out and find you, Sharí?
Yeah, sure. So more than welcome to visit the website, elevatedi.com. It works both elevated, the letter I.com. Um, and yeah, sign up for the newsletter. If you go to the workshops page, you can sign up and be notified for the invitations to the workshops. And then you'll see Spotlight Accelerator there. And and then if you're looking for a community, in a few months we will be launching Stage and Strategy, which is our community program, but that's in the works. So this is the unofficial announcement of that. So you're more than welcome. And then, oh gosh, am I actually going to tell you I have a YouTube channel? You're going to be the first one to know. I have a YouTube channel.
Awesome.
The videos are slowly rolling out. We got a couple up. I haven't done an official announcement of that yet because I'm banking a few more videos, but your audience is welcome to check it out.
Awesome. Well, what we'll do is we're going to send you the video from this interview, and you can repurpose like we were talking about,
Yay.
and be able
Perfect.
to put that on your new YouTube channel.
Woohoo. Love it.
Awesome. Well, Sharí, thank you so much for spending time with us and sharing your expertise. I find this stuff fascinating, and I know we could do this again sometime, and just
I look
talk
forward
about
to it.
stuff for fun. So appreciate you coming on.
Thank you, Anders. This was a real joy. I look forward to the next time.
Awesome. And to all of our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in once again. And until next time, you know what to do. Stay engaged. Thank you so much for listening to Engaging Personalities. If you believe this world needs more engagement and you're an industry leader or you have an interesting take on rehumanizing business, go to go.engagify.ai/podcast-guest to apply and come on the show. If you got something out of this interview, do you mind sharing it on your social media? Just grab a quick screenshot with your phone and text it to a friend or post it on the socials. If you know someone that would be a great guest, tag them on social media to let them know about the show. Include the hashtag Engaging Personalities. I love seeing your posts and guest suggestions. We are regularly putting out new episodes and content. To make sure you don't miss any episode, go ahead and subscribe. Your thumbs up, ratings, and reviews go a long way to help promote the show and mean a lot to me and my team. Want to know more? Go to our website, engagify.ai, or follow me on LinkedIn. Thanks for listening, and stay engaged.